My name is Anna. I live with my younger brother, Jake, in a small, quiet town. We moved here a year ago after losing our parents in a car accident. Life has been hard, but we try to make it work. We live in a small house on a peaceful street. Well, mostly peaceful. Across the street is an old abandoned house. It's huge, with broken windows and a rusty, creaky gate. Nobody lives there. People call it the silent house. Kids in the neighborhood say it's haunted. They tell scary stories about it, but I've never believed in ghosts. Jake, however, loves spooky stories. He's only 10 and his imagination runs wild. He spends hours staring at the house from our window, daring himself to go closer, but he never does. One rainy evening, Jake came running to me. Anna, I saw a light in the silent house," he said, his voice shaking. "Don't be silly," I said, laughing. "It's probably just lightning or your imagination." But later that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about what he said. Curious, I got up and looked out the window. At first, everything was dark. The house looked as lifeless as always. Then I saw it, a faint light flickering in one of the upstairs windows. My heart skipped a beat. Could someone really be inside? The next day, Jake begged me to go to the house with him. "Please, Anna," he said. "We have to check it out." I didn't want to, but his pleading wore me down. So after school, we put on our jackets and walked across the street. The air around the house felt strange. It was colder than the rest of the street, and there were no sounds, no birds, no rustling leaves, just silence. We pushed open the rusty gate, which groaned loudly. Jake held my hand tightly as we approached the house. "Let's just peek inside and leave," I whispered. Through a broken window, we could see the living room. It was covered in dust and cobwebs. Furniture lay scattered, as if someone had left in a hurry. In the middle of the room, there was a small wooden table with a single candle burning on it. "Someone's here," Jake whispered, his voice barely audible. We turned to leave, but then the front door creaked open. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer. Instead, a figure stepped into the doorway. A woman in a long dark dress. Her face was pale, almost ghostly, and her eyes seemed empty. "Leave," she said in a soft but chilling voice. We didn't need to be told twice. We ran home as fast as we could, our hearts pounding. That night, I couldn't sleep. Who was that woman? Why was she in the silent house? Was she even human? The next morning, I decided to find answers. I went to Mrs. Thompson, our elderly neighbor, who had lived in the town for over 50 years. When I mentioned the silent house, she froze. Her eyes widened and she whispered, "Stay away from that house, Anna. It's cursed." "Why?" I asked. They belong to the Grayson family, she said. They were wealthy but secretive. 20 years ago, there was a terrible fire. The parents and 2 of the children died. Only the youngest daughter, Clara, survived. But she disappeared after the fire. Some say she never left the house. Do you think the woman we saw was Clara? I asked. Mrs. Thompson's face turned pale. If it is, you mustn't go back. Clara's soul is trapped. She can't rest. People who go near that house, they don't come back the same. Her words sent chills down my spine. But Jake and I couldn't let it go. Maybe she needs help. Jake said that evening, what if she's waiting for someone to free her? I didn't want to go back, but Jake was determined. That night, we took a flashlight and returned to the silent house. The gate creaked as we pushed it open. The air was cold and heavy, and the house loomed over us like a giant shadow. The door was slightly open, as if waiting for us. Are you sure about this? I whispered. Jake nodded, his face pale but determined. Inside, the house was even colder. Dust hung in the air, and the floor creaked under our feet. The candle on the table was still burning, its flame steady despite the draft. Clara, I called out. There was no response. But then we heard it, a soft humming sound, coming from upstairs. We followed the sound up a creaky staircase. At the top we saw her. Clara stood in the hallway, her dark dress flowing like smoke. She turned to us, her empty eyes staring right through me. Why are you here? She asked, her voice echoing strangely. We want to help you, Jake said, stepping forward. Help? She repeated, tilting her head. You don't have to stay here anymore. He said then, you can move on. Her expression changed. She looked sad. I'm waiting, she whispered. Waiting for what? Jake asked. For my family, she said. They promised they'd come back. Tears filled her eyes. For a moment, she looked almost human. Your family is gone, I said gently. They would want you to find peace. Clara stared at us, her form flickering like a candle flame. Slowly, she smiled, a sad, broken smile. Thank you, she said softly. And then she vanished. The house grew silent, but it no longer felt heavy. The air seemed lighter, almost peaceful. The next morning, we noticed something strange. The silent house looked different. The broken windows and rusty gate were still there, but the air around it felt calm. The light in the window never appeared again. Clara was gone. Jake and I never told anyone what happened that night, but we felt good knowing we had helped her. The silent house was finally at peace, and so were we. Even now, when I walk past that house, I think about Clara. Her story is a reminder that some spirits are not evil. They're just waiting for someone to listen. If you like the story, then hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know in the comments which types of stories you want to listen. I will try my best to bring your favorite story